On the 26th of December 2024, I completed an any % speedrun of Cuphead in 22 minutes, 46 seconds and 290 milliseconds, a new world record by almost 2 seconds. If you look through this run, you might be wondering why I shoot an EX downwards here, why Grim freezes in phase 2, or why I'm shooting roundabout bolts above the screen here. This video aims at explaining all of that, and anything else you might be wondering. This is the Cuphead, any % legacy, world record explained. Before I explain this run, let me give some context. This was performed on the 1.0 version of the game, or Legacy, which is still accessible through Steam's beta branch option, but sadly, there's no way to access it on console. Legacy has many strats and glitches that are not possible in higher versions of the game, which I'll cover as they come up. Also, if you notice that the timer sometimes pauses, it's because I'm using a loadless timer that pauses during loads to make it fairer on runners with slower PCs. Cuphead's base game is composed of 19 bosses and 6 run and guns. To beat the game on regular mode, which is the goal for this category, you are first required to beat all the bosses on Inkwell Isles 1, 2 and 3. King Dice will open up, and if you beat him, this door will unlock, allowing you to fight the devil. The devil is the final boss in the game, so timing ends if you reach his knockout screen. Run and guns are platformer stages, each with 5 coins that can be used to buy weapons and charms in the shop. The weapons I used for this run are Lobber and Roundabout, which cost 8 coins total, so I get 3 from talking to Macintosh and 5 in the first run and gun, Forest Follies.
And begin!
This stage is so hard that barely 30% of the runs I start make it past it. Let's break it up. Every time Cuphead dashes, the game starts a cooldown in which he cannot dash again. Jumping, however, instantly ends this cooldown, so by jumping between dashes, I can chain them back to back and squeeze in an extra dash in certain places. If you're wondering if this hit loses time, it more just forces me to take a harder route through the level. If you parry during a stage, the scoreboard takes longer as it has to count up your parry, losing 0.8 seconds. Had I not gotten hit here, I would have had enough HP to damage boost into this coin rather than parrying the spike ball, saving 0.8 on the scoreboard later. But I do make that time back, because parrying here gives me a card. Cards allow you to shoot this special attack, called an EX, which helps me later in the stage. This clip saves 4 seconds because it skips having to kill the acorn maker, but it's also frame perfect. It's possible because there's a 1 pixel sweet spot between the wall and floor here that can be dashed into. I should mention that this skip is only possible on versions 1.1 and lower, because on newer versions, walls push you to the left when you clip inside rather than the right. This clip works the same way as the first one, but for this one I only have 1 HP, meaning I'd usually just fall down and die. This is where the EX from earlier comes in, because I can shoot an EX downwards to stall in the air long enough for the stage to end. Without this card, I would have had to end the stage normally, which is about 0.8 seconds slower because you have to wait for this animation where Cuphead slowly walks to the right of the screen. This clip is also frame perfect, which is why I'd usually just damage boost through the parry if I had the HP, but this is a nice backup to have for if I get hit early.
Welcome. Goodbye.
There are two things to mention here: how I buy my second item after exiting the shop, and how I equip my weapons before the overworld even shows on screen. Buying an item after exiting the shop is simply done by buying an item and exiting the shop on the same frame. Both operations initially take away your control, but when the item buy animation ends, the game gives you your control back, so you can buy your second item. For the early menuing, you can actually open the equip menu from the frame a stage loads, and I just memorized the button order to equip the weapons I want.
Here's a real high-class belt. Now go!
Here is the biggest difference between Legacy and higher versions of Cuphead: weapon swap glitch. On Legacy, a weapon's cooldown is always running down, even if you have a different weapon active. This means that if you rapidly swap between weapons, you can essentially use both at once. This is why humans generally use lobber and roundabout, because you don't have to swap at ridiculous speeds like you would for, say, pea shooter and spread. The optimal swapping speed for lobber and roundabout is 7 swaps per second. Another thing to mention is my lobber EXs. You may notice that I seem to be aiming for the grande rather than the boss. Due to a Unity collision bug, when a lobber EX collides with the grande, the collision is processed twice. This means I can do double damage by aiming for the grande close enough to the boss where it's in range of the splash damage. Why does only 1 star show here, even though I'm playing on regular mode? This is another glitch, called a star skip. If you press confirm on the frame a star should appear, the game just moves on, saving 28 frames if you skip 1 star and 58 frames if you skip 2 stars. Star skips have no visual cue, so some runners opt to just spam confirm as fast as they can and pray they get star skips, but I just time them instead.
A brawl is surely brewing. And begin!
Ribby and croaks is the second choke point in the run, and less than 19% of the runs I start make it past them. In phase 1, it's a 50-50 whether you get punches or flies, but luckily I get punches here, which is about 2 to 4 seconds faster than flies depending on how many flies you get. If you do enough damage to enter phase 3 before phase 1 ends, you'll get this weird animation, and you can go straight to phase 3 rather than having to wait for Ribby to go all the way to the left of the screen and come back, saving 7 seconds. This skip is only possible because when you reach the damage threshold for phase 2, Croaks gets a hitbox. This means that by damage boosting between the frogs and shooting, you deal damage to both of them, dealing double damage.
Here's a real high-class bout. Here goes.
Now's a good time to talk about my timer. These numbers show how much faster or slower I am compared to my current comparison at a given point. For example, you can see here that I'm 2.6 seconds ahead of my current comparison at a Goopy. The comparison I'm using was custom made, meaning I manually punched in the times I want to compare against. If you want to know how good the pace is at any point in the run, you can just look at the best pace ever, which shows how far ahead or behind I am compared to the fastest I've ever gotten to that point.
A great slam and then some. Here goes.
Getting Hilda to freeze in the Sagittarius phase like this has a 3 bullet window, but it saves 7 seconds, so it's pretty necessary if you're going for world record. It's done by getting our HP between 1330 and 1345 here, and then shooting this EX. At the end of this animation, the game checks Hilda's HP to see what she's transitioning into. It sees that her HP is in the threshold for phase 4, so it transitions her to the Angels or Sagittarius. As soon as the game decides to transition her to phase 4, however, I do enough damage to end the phase. The Sagittarius tries to attack you, but at the same time, the game tries to transition Hilda to phase 5. It doesn't know which action to prioritize, so it does neither, and gets stuck in phase 4 for the rest of the fight. This saves about 7 seconds, because while this animation for Hilda to transition to final phase is playing, she takes no damage, so this glitch essentially skips a cutscene. If I do too little damage, the fight will just play out as normal, and if I do too much damage, I'll just skip phase 4 altogether. To make sure I do the correct amount of damage, I check my cards in the bottom left. I also count the amount of mini blimps I kill and how many times my EX ticks, as these factors both affect the relationship between my cards and the boss's HP. Even with this in mind, it's still extremely easy to miscount your EX ticks or shoot an extra bullet by accident, so this trick is still extremely difficult. Only about 9% of the runs I start make it past Hilda, so I'm usually already quite nervous at this point. If you're wondering how I managed to get a lobbery X every time, I'm simply counting my swaps. King Dice will only talk to you at this point in this animation, meaning King Dice houses are essentially cycle based. I get the fastest cycle here.
Good day for a 12 battle. You're up.
Baroness Bon 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 is a very luck-based fight, as some mini-bosses are much slower than others, and the pattern you get is completely random. Jawbreaker is easily the slowest mini-boss, as its death animation is it slowly breaking each of its shells, one by one, until this green ball is revealed. Jawbreaker has a 3 in 5 chance of appearing as one of the mini-bosses, and sadly, this run gets it first. The fastest recorded Baroness is a 25.81 by Yuka, which is about 7 seconds faster than what I get here. Easily one of the slowest fights in the run.
A brawl is surely brewing. Here goes.
On plane fights, if you EX and swap weapons on the same frame, you can keep shooting during the EX animation. This is called a Luigi swap, named after the former runner, Luigi 100. I couldn't do Luigi swaps on Hilda because I didn't have a second weapon to swap to, but all the plane fights from here on will have them. Also, I pause here because it makes final phase appear sooner.
Here's a real high-class bout. It's on!
Here I'm shooting at this hitbox, seen in the animation to start phase 4, which is stored just below the screen. If you do enough damage to kill phase 3 before it starts, Djimmi will be stuck in his sarcophagus phase for the rest of the fight, which skips the slower animations that happen later in the fight. Also, this head's hitbox does not extend when it reaches out, which is why I can just sit here without getting hit.
Good day for a 12-man. It's on!
Okay, I know this might look insane, but it's just another freeze like in Djimmi where I kill a phase before it starts. Here, I kill phase 2 before it starts, causing him to be stuck in that phase for the rest of the fight. I make a small trap here for Beppi to drive into, because if I do too much damage before he goes to the left of the screen, he'll just go straight to phase 2 and I won't have enough time to get the glitch. I also make a small trap on the right of the screen, because if I get the glitch too early, his head will be above the screen and it will be impossible to progress. This freeze saves upwards of 15 seconds, because the animations to start phase 3 and 4 are so long. Also, the phase 3 hitbox is stored off screen here, which is what I'm shooting at during the transition.
well battle. And begin!
This is again just another freeze from killing a phase before it starts. This one doesn't save any time, but it makes the fight slightly easier because Grim doesn't attack you. Officially less than 5% of my runs make it to this point, and it's my best pace ever, so I'm extremely nervous now.
Here's a real high-class bout. Now go!
It might not look like it, but this fight is actually the biggest time loss in the run. On phase 2, if B appears in the middle, which has a 1 in 3 chance of happening, you can kill her before she even goes off screen, which saves 7 seconds over side patterns on average. I both get a side pattern here and play pretty slow, causing me to lose 8 seconds over the fastest recorded B, which is a 27.81 by Yucca. Until now, the run has been going pretty average. I'm 4 seconds behind the world record, and about even with the first 22. From here, though, everything starts to go right. I get really good RNG, I hit all my strats, and I play pretty fast in general. In fact, if you look at my timer, you'll see that my best possible time is a 22:24, meaning I play 22 seconds off perfect for the entire rest of the run.
A brawl is surely brewing. You're up!
How this glitch works is not fully known, but it's done by killing the heart with an up-close bomb EX, which causes 6 magnets to hit it on the same frame. On Legacy, Cala doesn't take any damage in phase 1 until the final hit on the heart, which is hard-coded to do a preset amount of damage to progress the phase. For some reason, despite 6 bullets touching the heart on the same frame, this hard-coded damage is activated 12 times, sending Cala's HP all the way down to negative 281. Also, this glitch is only possible on Legacy, because on higher versions, Cala takes damage differently.
A great slam and then some. Here goes.
Here, I'm shooting at the off-screen phase 3 hitbox, which is barely reachable if you time a roundabout at the pinnacle of your jump.
This match will get red hot. And begin!
This EX collides with the grande and the boss on the same frame, causing it to do triple damage. Well, it's a little more complicated than that. Remember earlier when I said a unity bug causes lobbery X collisions with the grande to be processed twice? Well, that's actually true for all lobbery X collisions, but the devs coded in a fix for collisions with the boss, where in every frame a lobbery X collides with a boss, it checks to see if it's already exploded, and if it has, it cancels the interaction. They forgot to add this check-in for collisions with the grande, which is why I can still do double damage by aiming for the grande. If a lobbery X collides with the boss and the grande on the same frame, it has a 50% chance of doing double damage and a 50% chance of doing triple damage. This is because Unity uses a seemingly random system to decide which collision is processed first. If the collision with the grande is processed first, the game explodes the EX, dealing damage to the boss through splash damage. It then goes to process the collision with the boss, so it runs a check to see if the EX has already exploded, sees it has, and cancels the interaction. On the next frame, due to the Unity bug, the collisions are processed again. For the grande collision, it explodes the EX again, and for the boss collision, it does nothing because it sees the EX has already exploded. If the collision with the boss is processed first, it first runs a check to see if the EX has already exploded. It sees it hasn't this time, so it deals direct damage to the boss. It then processes the interaction with the grande and explodes the EX again. On the next frame, it explodes the EX a third time for the grande collision and skips the boss collision because it sees the EX has already exploded. So to get a triple lobbery X, you need to line yourself up so the lobbery X collides with the boss and grande on the same frame, and get lucky in a 50-50. The lineup normally has a 3 pixel window, but depending on if the boss is moving towards or away from you, it can be more lenient or in some cases even impossible. These EXs do quadruple damage because they land on both the grande and this wooden platform, dealing double damage on both.
This match will get red hot. Here goes.
Once you do enough damage to Briny to enter final phase, he becomes invulnerable until he finishes his attack and enters final phase, so to save time here, you want as short of an attack as possible. I actually get the fastest RNG here, because Squid is the only sea creature that you can kill, which ends the attack immediately. If you play slightly more optimally here, you can actually kill the Squid about 1.5 seconds sooner, but that's pretty risky in full game runs because there's no way to know if you've done enough damage to enter final phase. The fastest recorded briny is a 26.71 by the former world record holder, Sublime.
A brawl is surely brewing. You're up.
If you do enough damage to Cala in phase 1 to trigger the end of phase 2, you'll get soft locked in the arena with nothing to shoot. This means that if you get a second attack, you have to hold back damage to avoid said soft lock, losing 6+ seconds. With this in mind, I get the shortest attack here, ghosts only, meaning I have to land 4 Luigi swaps and swap optimally so as not to lose time. Yellow fish is even harder to one cycle though, as it requires practically perfect swaps and has absolutely no lenience.
This match will get red hot. It's on!
Not only is this my best phantom exit, but it's without BRNG, meaning this run, despite a 7-second time loss, manages to beat my previous best phantom exit by over a second. Imagine what it could have been if I got BRNG.
This match will get red hot. Here goes! Here's a real high-class bout. And begin! A great slam and then some. You're up.
Okay, what just happened? Why did Monkey just go off screen and die? The devs coded a failsafe into Monkey, where if it goes off screen past a certain point, it just dies. By stopping the monkey right after it hits off the side of the screen and overlapping the screen's border on it, I can get the monkey to glitch out and go off screen, triggering this failsafe. The window in which you need to stop the monkey is pretty precise, so this trick has tragically ended countless runs. To pay respects to these runs, here's a montage.
Ja! Nein! Oh! Oh no, I'm back. No. No, he's trolling me.
easy. And I'm done.
That was in. What the fuck, man? Fuck! Fuck, dude, fuck!
Good day for us. Well, it's on.
Here, I damage boost through the cards instead of parrying them, because every time you parry, the game freezes for a few frames.
A great slam and then stuck. Here goes.
Devil is by far the most variant fight in the run, and I'd wager a guess that I've spent over 200 hours practicing him alone just because of the sheer number of patterns that are possible in Phase 1. The grande is composed of overlapping tiles, meaning if you get a lobbery X on the overlap, it deals double damage on both tiles, dealing quadruple damage to anything in range of the splash damage. I use this tech by doing barely not enough damage to trigger Phase 2. The devil then does his dragon attack, and I hit him with 5 quadruple damage lobbery X's. I then killed the devil without even going off screen by shooting roundabout bolts at this off screen hitbox, finishing the run with a 22:46.290. So, where will Legacy speedrunning go from here? The obvious time save is better RNG on B and Baroness, but between strats and micro time losses elsewhere, there's much more time to save than in just those two fights. On frogs, Yucca proved that it's actually possible to get super skip with flies, which is about 1.5 seconds faster than super skip with punches. You can also get Hilda freeze without a nuke, which is even harder to keep track of your damage, but saves 3+ seconds because you skip the nuke animation and you can optimize your damage more. You can also save about a second on Cala if you clip a minigun EX between these two hitboxes. You can kill Sally in Phase 3, saving about 1.5 seconds, and you can save another 1.5 seconds in Phantom Phase 3 if you kill them in a very specific way. There's also micro time losses littered across the run, and my sum of best, that is, the fastest I've done every segment added up, is a 21:45.59, over a minute faster than the current world record. I'd like to thank SBD Wolf for being the reason I started speedrunning Cuphead, and Hazelness, Yucca, and Sublime for pushing me to lower my times along the way. Thanks for watching.